Good morning, Jackson, Mississippi, and all surrounding areas. You've tuned in to the free-range human show of choice. Your daily dose of reality radio starts now. This is the Clay Edwards Show. I am, of course, Clay Edwards. I just want to say something real quick. I was driving in this morning, and the main billboard that I was shooting for finally went live with my Clay Edwards Show stuff on it, and that was the one right there in front of Bass Pro Shops on I-20 heading west into Jackson, because that's the same one that had the Trans Kids Belong billboard a month or so ago. That a simple picture of it got me kicked off Facebook, and now it's a Clay Edwards Show billboard. We're bringing it, baby. We are bringing the war straight to them. This is how you win it. You go fight it. You don't leave platforms because you don't like it. You don't leave Twitter. You don't leave Facebook. You stay there and you fight the cultural Marxists. With that said, if you want to call in today, if you have any questions for our guest, the Mac Hike of Flowwood phone line is 601-879-0002. The Guns and Gear text line, hey, look, if I was y'all, I'd be running out to Guns and Gear right now and getting everything I can after watching Joe Biden's announcement of gun grab last night. Anyway, the Guns and Gear text line is 769-241-1944. Check Guns and Gear out online at gunsandgearms.com. Look, let's jump straight into it. Third Congressional District candidate, Mr. Michael Cassidy, is our guest. Michael, you there, brother?
I am. Good morning.
Good morning, man. How you doing?
Pretty good, pretty good.
Look, brother, real quick, we were talking off air, and I just want to bring this to air and kind of start here, and we can go wherever you want to go after this. I've been rationalizing this Michael Guest thing for a while now. I've got a friend that works for him. I've met his family. Just like you said on Kim Wade's show yesterday, I have nothing negative to say about the man himself or his family. They're good people. But I'm sure when Michael Guest was a DA or the DA there in Rankin and Madison County, he had to send a lot of really good people to jail that just made one bad mistake. It's like, man, you just let one you just drank and drove one night. You just did something. One bad mistake has ruined your life, or at minimum cost you your career. And I look at his one bad mistake that should cost him his career as the January 6th commission. That is unforgivable to me, and that should bring him on back home from Washington. What say you?
Yeah, there are a lot of things to talk about with that. So many people on the right, unfortunately, get caught up in with what the left is saying. And after January 6th, that the media, all the politicians, all those people, all those institutions of the left were talking about how this was the worst thing since 1812 or the Civil War. And that, unfortunately, a lot of Republicans took that hook, line, and sinker. And then they adopted the language of the left. You saw, I don't know if you remember, a few weeks ago, Kevin McCarthy was the minority leader, Kevin McCarthy. He had some audio release of him basically saying how bad the January 6th was, and how bad how bad Trump was, and how, maybe we need to push Trump to resign. And Guest had that same mentality of taking the Democratic talking points. He was the only person, the only Mississippi Republican who voted for the January 6th commission. And he'll try to equivocate and say, well, I voted for the first one but not the other one because the first one was really nonpartisan. It was supposed to be a very nonpartisan committee. Well, I've got the legislation up, and the purpose stated in the very first paragraph, the purpose of the January 6th commission that Michael Guest voted for is to investigate and report upon the facts and causes relating to the January 6, 2021 domestic terrorist attack upon the United States Capitol. The function of the commission, Section 4, paragraph number 1, conduct an investigation of the relevant facts and circumstances relating to the domestic terrorist attack on the Capitol. I don't see how anybody who reads that legislation can possibly think that those words, domestic terrorist attack on the Capitol, would ever lead to something that is nonpartisan. And, I get that a lot of representatives not read bills. And that's a bad thing. You shouldn't be voting on something that you have no idea what it is. I think that's reason enough to not vote for a 3,000-page bill, is to say, I can't read it. Nobody's read it. How in the world can we put our signature on something that we don't know what's in it?
As Nancy Pelosi would say, you can't read Obamacare till you pass it.
Exactly. And so this bill, I'm looking at it, it looks maybe, 7 pages long, but to give him the most, it's not really saying a good thing about it, but let's just say that he didn't read it. Let's just say he didn't read it, like so many other representatives and senators didn't read a bill, and that's, again, its own problem. But if he didn't read it, then after you voted on it, he's had plenty of time to read it, especially knowing the immense backlash that he has received from the base and from Donald Trump himself. He criticized it broadly, that you would think that you would go back and you would at least read what's in the bill, and then he'd say, man, I voted for that. It says domestic terror 19 times in that legislation. Man, I screwed up. I made a horrible decision. And I need to tell people, or else people are going to think that I support that kind of thing. But Michael Guest didn't do that. He didn't admit any mistake. In fact, he's doubled down. He has justified it multiple times. He has said, yes, I'm glad that I took that vote. I took this vote because of X, Y, and Z. And it is something that he can't run from it. He can't run from it. And just like you said at the very beginning of this segment, that people sometimes make a mistake, and that mistake, if it's bad enough, man, like you can't recover from it. There's some things that, we certainly, forgiveness is huge, and we have to forgive other people's sins, but that doesn't mean that you need repentance in that. And there is no repentance for what Mr. Guest did on with that vote. And so if he's not ashamed of that, if he's going to keep on voting like that if we reelect him. And so that is something, just like you said, that is he had a chance and to show his true colors, and he did.
Well, look, if people think that this doesn't have anything to do with me, I wasn't in Washington, D.C. on January 6th. I ain't worried about that. This doesn't have anything to do with me. I was sitting at work that day. Oh, it definitely has something to do with you, because this is going to be the groundwork for how they keep us all in check, and they never let us rise up and contest our government.
Absolutely. They've started using the term, the left has started using the term domestic terrorism all the time. They talk about in response to or what they call things they don't like from the right wing, and it's going to be words are terrorism. You see them trying to shut down free speech, and if they have taken over the term. It's something that, the right people on the right would use a lot after 9/11. We talked about domestic terrorism as a reason
lone wolves, stuff of that nature.
To use as a way to, go after the Islamic terrorism, which, that had some, at least some validity that, we had, it's crazy though that we invited so many people in. That is a much longer discussion. But now the left is using that language of domestic terror to try to shut down any sort of dissent by saying, hey, he's criticizing the government here. Well, he must be a domestic terrorist. And that is what Michael Guest put his signature on, aiding and abetting the Democrats in progressing this kind of mentality in the government. And it is not good for liberty. It is not good for the American people.
Absolutely not. Look, we're going to take a break real quick. You're listening to the Clay Edwards Show. I'm joined by Michael Cassidy. He's looking for your vote coming up here in the 3rd Congressional District Republican primary. We'll be right back on 103.9.
America, you love your country, so it goes without saying that you also love your ride. And Auto Armor in Flowood wants to help you make that ride shine. Auto Armor in Flowood is Central Mississippi's premier automotive detail and ceramic coating shop, servicing any type of vehicle, including ATVs, boats, and more. Need just a quick detail or paint correction? Auto Armor can make it happen. But if you're set to hit the road in a blaze of glory while flying the old red, white, and blue, Auto Armor should be your first and last call to give your ride a full ceramic coating. Auto Armor is locally owned and operated by the loud and proud American patriot Clay Edwards. Auto Armor also proudly backs the blue, all military and first responders. So don't forget to ask for your discount. Call 601-260-0858. 601-260-0858. Or stop in today, fellow Americans. Auto Armor is located at 4394 Mangum Drive in Flowood. Online at AutoArmorMS.com. Auto Armor, unapologetically American.
All right, welcome back into the Clay Edwards Show. This segment, and it feels very relevant to have these guys sponsoring it right now with the rain out there, is brought to you by Watkins Construction and Roofing. A roof repair can cause you a lot of stress. Choosing the right roofing company to repair your roof is going to be very important. Most contractors will try to convince you that replacement is the only way to go, and that, my friends, is not the Watkins way. They believe in an honest assessment. That doesn't necessarily mean replacement. In most cases, all you need is a repair. So whether you have a leaky roof, you need chimney roof repair, flat roof repair, roof water leak, shingle roof repair, metal roof repair, chimney flashing repair, Watkins Construction and Roofing is your go-to roof repair specialist. Give them a call today for your complimentary roof assessment. And in my hood, we call that free, by the way. For your complimentary roof assessment, call them 601-966-8233 or check them out online at watkinsconstructioninc.com. All right, back to the Mac Haik of Flowood phone line. We have got Michael Cassidy on the line running for 3rd Congressional District seat up there in Washington against Michael Guest. How you doing, brother? You still there?
Yes, sir. Still here.
All right, that introduction, that 3rd Congressional District stuff, that is a mouthful. So look, hey, the primaries are on June 7th, so they're just right around the corner. Am I right on that date?
Oh, yeah, it's Tuesday, June 7th, so it is now 4 days away. 4 days away. We've got people can also vote if they are going to be out of the county, if they're going to be working during the election, if they're over 65, if they've got a valid medical excuse with a note from their doctor. They can go into the county courthouse either today during regular business hours or tomorrow until noon, and you can vote absentee. It's essentially early voting. I know I did it because I'm going to be out of the county. I'm going to be in Rankin County on Election Day, and I'm registered in Lauderdale County, and I voted early, paper ballot, only race on the ballot, pretty straightforward. But the big thing is that this is going to be a very, very low turnout election, and that it's only going to take a few votes to win this thing. And so the people have the chance to really make it have an outsized impact on the election. If you just, not only you go make a plan to vote, but you talk to, say, 3-5 of your friends or neighbors, people that, maybe they weren't going to vote, and you get them to the polls, that's going to have a bigger proportionate impact than it would on just about any other race for federal office that we ever have, because there's usually a senator, president, something like that on the ballot. It's just us right now. And so it's really going to be not that much extra votes it's going to take to win this thing.
Look, man, you're making some waves. I live over in Rankin County right there, in Michael Guest country and in Brandon. And on my street there in Cross Gates, I've noticed 3 or 4 Cassidy signs pop up. I was at a car show Saturday. There's a guy walking around with a America First Cassidy shirt on, and that brings me to my next point here, man. You're an American First candidate, and I think that's very important. That's something that skews well down here in Mississippi. At least it does in these circles that I run in, and like this, that's what we want, man. We just want. Can we get back to being America First? What are you gonna do to help us do that if you get elected?
Well, the America First. It's a philosophy. It's and it's a very straightforward philosophy. It's that when it comes to the political decisions, either domestically or foreign policy, that we have to put the interests of our nation and her people number one. It doesn't mean, like, for example, giving money, $53 billion to Ukraine over the past few months, like Michael Guest has done, like so many, like I think all the Democrats and many of the Republicans too have done. People in D.C., people in the State Department, a lot of the bureaucrats there, they have a greater affinity. They have a greater affinity for their counterparts, whether it's in Paris or Rome or Tokyo or Dubai. They've got a greater affinity for those people like Roger Wicker going to the World Economic Forum in Davos than they do for the people of their own district, their own constituents. And that is something that if you have that mentality where you rather rub elbows with these foreign leaders and dignitaries than you would with your own people, that's how you get away from America first. That's how we get so many of the bad policies, whether it's giving up some of our sovereignty with to the WHO and these international organizations like the United Nations. That's how you get there. So we need a philosophical shift back towards it's got to be good for the American people. And so domestically, that means, for example, with immigration, that we care more about the needs of our own people first. That if we see that if you just look at the southern border and you see that all the drugs coming in causing 100,000 drug overdose deaths per year, American deaths, then you have to think, how do we take care of Americans? Do we keep the border open or do we shut it? You shut it. You can't get any other conclusion from that. America's not here to be a charity for the world. We've got to take care of our own first. It's one thing when we've got a extremely prosperous country, when our bounty is overflowing, but that is not the case right now. We've got an economy that's begun to contract. We've got inflation that's heating up with really no end in sight. We've got prices of basic necessities skyrocketing every day. We've got shortages of not just food, but also critical supplies for manufacturing and other materials. And we cannot afford to focus on other countries in terms of giving our wealth and treasure. We got to focus on ourselves. And so many people up in D.C., they like to focus on themselves. They like to focus on things they can point to in other countries as, hey, look, we've done this great thing for Somalia, or this great thing for Zimbabwe, or for Iraq, or for Ukraine. Instead of saying, I got people in my own district that are suffering, I'm going to take care of my own first. So that's my philosophy, and that's the philosophy of, I believe, a great majority of the base. And even, it's not even that partisan. It is a little partisan, but a lot of the Democrats, they feel the same way, and they're betrayed by their leaders just as bad as we are. The American people want to take care of the American people. They want to take care of their family, their neighbors, and politicians in D.C. that don't do that.
Well, look, I'll tell you, as a small business owner, I've watched my cost of doing business double in the last few months. I own a detail shop. We do like high-end ceramic coating and stuff like that, like fancy type stuff. And I can't get anything silicone-based, like silicone-based tire shine, stuff of that nature. It's astronomical. You couldn't afford to get your car washed if I use silicone-based products right now. We're having to use water-based versions of these products because it's just too expensive or not even available. And it's just little stuff like that. And I imagine that silicone-based products go well beyond just what we use in a detail shop. I imagine that there's a very important product and multiple things down the line there. And it's tough, man. It really is. And I would like to see, the little guy get a win. And it just never feels like the little guy. And that was one of my things here. We got to take a break here in about 2 or 3 minutes, but I did want to hit this. It feels like the little guy is not important until they want to take our tax money. It feels like nobody in Washington, D.C., minus a few women like Marjorie Taylor Greene and Lauren Boebert, even care about Americans anymore. And I want to see that energy, that I call them this big ovary energy, man. I want to see that replicated by the men we send up there. I want the men to be men and care about the blue collar people back here in Mississippi and around the country, over the flyover states.
Absolutely. And that's one thing that we It's why we love Trump. It's why why the base loves those two women, is because they fight and they fought. And that is the kind of person that I want to be. I want to fight. We have way too many, the vast majority of the politicians, the Republicans even, that they don't fight. They ain't got a backbone. They roll over. And that is exactly why I want to go to D.C. I don't want to go to D.C. to be just a congressman, just to wear that fancy little pin on my suit that says I'm a congressman. I don't care about getting media interviews and people say, hey, Congressman Cassidy, how are you feeling today? No, I want to go up there and I want to fight for the people. I want to fight against some of this globalist nonsense that a lot of the people on both sides of the aisle are pushing that undermines our sovereignty. I want to fight against the forces that are content with bringing in millions of illegal immigrants into this country on a yearly basis. I want to fight against the people that think that our elections are, pretty good the way they are, instead of saying, we need some real election integrity bills to make sure this is a nonpartisan thing. We need some real election integrity bills to make sure that we one man, one vote, instead of getting these ballot drop boxes and all this mail-in voting that we have no accountability for. So you're right that we need people, and the base loves people who fight. Talking about small businesses, I think it was the May jobs report. I think the overall top line was that we gained jobs, maybe let's say 200,000 jobs in the country. But I saw a breakdown. I hadn't seen this ever before, the breakdown between small business and big business and government jobs. And small businesses, even though the overall increase in jobs was 200,000, let's say, something like 70,000 small business jobs were lost. And that's been a pretty common thing from doing a little bit more research, that even though some job numbers may go up, it's all going to the 1,000 employee plus companies, and the mom and pop shops or the smaller business, which are like 80% or so, 89% of all businesses in the country are small business. They're getting hammered, and whether it's because of regulations, because of inflation, because of policy, macro policy set by the people in D.C. that's fine with creating an unfriendly business environment for domestic American small businesses. And that is another part of America First, is making sure that America is the world's friendliest place for its citizens to make and to continue a small business. And it's not that way right now. We got to fix that.
Absolutely. All right, we're going to take another break real quick. You're listening to The Clay Edwards Show. I'm joined by Michael Cassidy, and we'll be right back on 103.9 WYAB. All right, welcome back into The Clay Edwards Show. This segment is going to be brought to you by the Raymond Farmers Market. Tonight is Catfish Night. It's locally sourced from Simmons Catfish Farms right out there in Yazoo City. This is close to farm-to-table catfish as you're going to get. It is phenomenal. I'm not even a catfish guy. I went out there and tried it last week. I would go back now for catfish, and I would never say that, and I'm not just saying that either. Real talk here. You can ask my wife and her aunt and uncle that went with us. Best catfish I've ever had, and I don't just throw that around. Get out there tonight. You can make reservations online at RaymondFarmersMarket.com, or just give them a call, 601-909-8500. And hey, maybe catfish isn't your thing. Maybe you're like thinking to yourself, Clay, I want a steak. Do they have steak? Yes, Saturday night is steak night. You can get the 10-ounce filet, the 16-ounce ribeye, or the big enough to feed 3 people, 3-pound tomahawk ribeye, 100% grass-fed, 100% organic beef from right here in Mississippi. All right. Check them out online, RaymondFarmersMarket.com, located at right over there on Hines Boulevard, 205 Hines Boulevard, right across the street from Hines Community College. You can't miss it. All right, we got Michael Cassidy on the phone line here. Hey, Michael, you there? Looks like we have lost Mr. Cassidy. He can call back here in just a second. So, look, good stuff there with Michael Cassidy. I'm telling you, this America First stuff, we have got to get some candidates up there that put America first. I don't think this is rocket science. We need people that care about us in D.C. I don't understand why this is so hard. Tell you what, I think we got Derek calling in on the Mac Hike of Flowwood phone line. Hey, Derek, you there, brother?
Hey, brother, how you doing, man? I hate the trouble, man. That Sunday we had breakfast with him. I sat there and talked to him for like another hour and a half or two about number airplanes. Just a real humble guy. And, like I say, he has my family support.
Hey, Derek, we got some bad reception problems going on, brother. Give me a call back when you get something, get a little closer to somewhere.
Okay.
All right. Yeah. The phones are on the fritz this morning. Cell phones, man. I tell you, when you get rainy weather out there, it wreaks havoc on cell phones. It really does. And it's not the phones themselves, obviously. I mean, for the thousands of dollars we pay for these things, it better just be the service. Speaking of that, I live in Brandon. Does anybody else been having a lot of problems with AT&T's cell phone service? Like, I feel like there's no reason that anywhere in Rankin County, particularly in a populated area like Crossgates, that I should have only one bar of cell service. It doesn't make sense. Like, I can sit out in my driveway and have no phone service. And I'm in the middle of a populated neighborhood. All right, we got Derek back here on the Mac Hike of Flowwood phone line. Hey, Derek, you're on the air.
Hey, is that better?
Yes, that's better.
Okay, I thought that's weird. I had full signal, but yeah, I'm with AT&T FirstNet, so yeah, that is weird. No, I just want to say that guy's a great candidate. He's a great human being. And, when we sat there and talked for the longest at breakfast, and I'm rooting for him all the way. But I don't know about you, Clay. I mean, we were sitting together, but I cringed when Michael Guest did not address any of the constituents there about the stuff he's done.
And he just glossed right over the January 6th. It was insulting. And look, and he walked in, he shook our hand. We met him. I've sat down. I sat one place. I've had dinner, lunch with his father. Great guy. His son's a great kid. I mean, he is a great man. I have nothing. I don't have a problem with the man. I have a big problem with this January 6th stuff, and I just can't let it go.
No, I can't either because, in my opinion, I'm sorry. I don't want to offend nobody. That was a great day for democracy because dissension is the greatest form of patriotism. Thomas Jefferson said that. Yep. And just because you declare a pandemic and start blocking off the Capitol don't mean you can stop us from coming in there. That's our Capitol. That's our public building. You serve us. You understand?
Yep.
So, no, they realized that their agenda was up in the wash because people were ready to fight back, and that's what they really feared. And if they thought that military soldiers who really can't enforce any laws on because the posse comitatus was going to stop us, they're dreaming. That's why the guns weren't even loaded. They're not going to attack us because they're feeling the same pinch we are. And like I said on Kim's show, and I'm going to say it again, Michael Guest, your time is up. It's a wrap because it's a wrap for Rhapsody, for Cassidy. It's a Rhapsody for Cassidy.
I like it, brother. All right, Derek, have a blessed day today, man. I'll see you in the morning. Holler at me.
Okay.
All right, be good. All right, I believe we have got Mr. Cassidy back on the line. Hey, Michael, you there?
Yeah, I'm here.
Sorry about that, man. Not quite sure what happened there, but we got you back. Yeah, you had a fan call in. I know you spoke with Derek yesterday on Kim's show. Yeah. He called back in and just reminded us it's going to be a Rhapsody for Cassidy.
Yeah, I like that phrase.
He's a good dude, man. He was with us at the breakfast the last month when we ran into you at McLean's there. They're doing that again this Saturday, by the way. So look, you had an event there last night at Riverside Church. How did that go, man? Was that with the AFP, Americans for Prosperity?
No, we Take Mississippi Back.
I'm sorry. That's it. Take Mississippi Back.
It is a candid forum with both me and one of the other candidates in the race, Thomas Griffin. Michael Guest declined for the at least the third time to go to any sort of forum or debate. It's pretty typical. In the primary runoff in 2018, Michael Guest declined to debate his Republican opponent. He declined to debate the Democrat in the 2018 general. In 2020, he wouldn't debate either in the primary or the general. And then again, this year, he has refused to just as an opportunity to give his views. And this was a very tame forum. It was not contentious whatsoever. We were each asked questions in order, about 16 questions each. It wasn't going after each other. And they were questions that Mr. Guest should have been able to answer. But The other form that we had a week ago, it was actually me and the Democrat were the only people that went. They talked to Mr. Guest and they said, hey, can you do this event on May 26th, let's say the day it was. And he said, no, I've got a conflict there. And they said, well, you're the congressman, and we really love to have you. So tell us what day is good for you, and we'll do it then. And he never got back to them, as you can imagine. So he's trying to cruise into victory simply on name recognition alone, because he can't do it on his record. Can't do it for voting for over $1 billion for Planned Parenthood. And that's something I want to address in a little bit more detail, that some people may have seen his ads where he says that he's got some good ratings from a couple of pro-life organizations. And that is correct, that he does have those ratings from those organizations. However, the key to understanding those is that they only rate a handful of votes. It's only a handful of votes that they rate out of the hundreds that they make. And they have those organizations make a decision to not score, to not include the votes that actually fund Planned Parenthood, because if they do, then that means that instead of giving, say, 150 Republicans A+ ratings, then that means they could only give maybe a dozen of them A ratings. And if they only give a dozen or so people really good ratings and everybody else gets a C or something like that, well, then nobody's going to talk about it. You ain't going to see Michael Guest talk about it in his ads. You ain't going to see other Republicans that vote to give money for Planned Parenthood. You ain't going to see them talk about it. And so if these organizations aren't getting talked about, they don't get money. They don't get money, they fall apart. And so that is their calculation, is that they're willing to compromise their values and not include these funding, the actual funding, the literal funding of abortion in their ratings, which doesn't make any sense at first, but then you think about it a little while and the incentives they have, and it's because they compromise just like Michael Guest compromises on life. Well, and my pledge, and I've said it a whole bunch of times, and I'll say it again right now, that I will never vote for a bill that gives 1 cent of taxpayer money to Planned Parenthood.
Well, here's my thing, and I 100% agree with you on that, is I'm tired of Republicans bragging about what I consider the bare minimum of doing their job. I just want to assume that if I vote for a Republican, that you're going to do your best to not allow people to kill babies and that you're going to defend the Constitution. Those should just be givens. You shouldn't even have to run on that. The R should tell me all I need to know. What are you going to do? What are these folks going to do with the rest of the stuff that really affects us? Are you going to force inoculations on us? Are you going to force lockdowns? Are you going to arrest people who protest if they don't fit a certain political party? I mean, if we have another BLM Antifa Summer of Love, is that going to be called an insurrection also? I mean, these are things that are way more important to me. I mean, not that the abortion stuff is not important. Like I say, I'm just going to give the assumption that if I vote for a Republican, that this is handled, I know you're going to do your part there. You shouldn't have to brag about it. It's like a bad parent bragging about how they take care of their kids.
Yeah.
I'm fed up with that. I know. I want to know what you're going to do about the stuff that really affects my day-to-day life. Can we do something to lock in us being more energy efficient here in America? Stuff that really affects my day-to-day life. I'm not out here knocking up women and having abortions, and that has nothing to do with my day-to-day life. Things that have to do with my day-to-day life is putting America first, and my gas prices, my grocery prices, my freedom, my guns, stuff of that nature. Sorry, I'm fired up about it this morning. I apologize.
Yeah, of course. Energy independence is one of it's one of my main issues that we need to. It's part of the America First agenda as well, that we have to have and it's a national security issue. We have to have a reliable, consistent source of energy for all sorts of things, whether it's for transportation, whether it's for the military, for manufacturing, everything. We have to have, we can't be reliant on foreign inputs of energy. And we can't, like so many on the left want, we can't depend on unreliable sources of energy such as solar and wind. We need to have oil. We need to have nuclear. And that could be something that I know the people on the left, they're not going to be the biggest fans of oil. So we need, as Republicans, we got to be strong in pushing for that. But something that we can work on a nonpartisan basis on is expanding nuclear. We haven't had a single nuclear plant in 25 years, or we've had one in 25 years. And we've got this technology for 6-7 decades. We can reinvest in this. And those new power plants, they're providing the same energy, whether it's middle of the day, whether it's night, whether the wind's blowing or not. And if we can have that, again, secure supply of energy, well, that allows us to do a whole lot of other things. You saw in Europe, a lot of the countries in Europe, that they're reliant on Vladimir Putin and Russia for energy, and that is not good. You should not be reliant on, you should, as little as possible, be reliant on other countries for whether it's your mineral supplies, whether it's for your computer chips, your food, energy, anything. We should be striving to have as much of our resources come from the United States, and we're blessed with such a great, rich country that we can do that for just about everything. We need to bring a lot of manufacturing back to America. Things that don't get stuck in cargo ships are things that are built in America. So we need to get to that. And one of the key parts, again, of the America First agenda is energy independence and increasing the supply of domestic energy.
All right, we got to take a break, but I want to say one more thing, just kind of in closing to what you just said is, I don't believe a pipeline that delivers oil domestically should be able to be open and closed at the whim of a different political party. We have got to secure that. That should not be political. If we agree to have a pipeline, then dang it, we have a pipeline. End of discussion. You shouldn't be able to come and say, no, green energy, we're doing away with it, with no plan B in place. It's like we're just cutting this off.
Yeah.
All right. Now, we're going to take a break real quick. We're joined by Michael Cassidy. We'll be right back on the Clay Edwards Show on 103.9 WYAB. Show real quick. I want to remind y'all, coming up next after my show ends at the top of the hour, you'll have Jim Thorne, and his musical guest this week will be Bill Howlin' Mad Perry and his daughter, Shy Perry. That's coming up next at the top of the hour on the Jim Thorne Show. And this last segment of the day is brought to you by Take a Break Deliveries. The roads are wet out there today. No better time than to stay in the office or in the house and let Take a Break Deliveries bring you lunch or dinner. They're a locally owned, veteran-owned food delivery service, and they're so much more than just food. They've got beer, wine, liquor, cigarettes, you name it. Take a Break Deliveries can bring it to you. Check them out online, takeabreakdeliveries.com, or download the app at Take a Break Deliveries. And if you're a new customer, use the code CLAY601 for $4 off your first delivery. And that's Clay with a capital C. Take a Break Deliveries, takeabreakdeliveries.com. All right. On the Matt Hike of Flowwood phone line, we've got Michael Cassidy, running for 3rd Congressional District in the Republican primary against Michael Guest on June 7th. That's this upcoming Tuesday. Michael, you got about 3 minutes, brother. You want to close it out for us? Hey, Michael, you there? Mr. Cassidy? Mr. Cassidy, you there?
Yes, sir.
All right, sorry about that. You got about 3 minutes here, brother. You want to close it out?
Absolutely. Thank you. So looking in the next few days, we got the election June 7th. And we've talked about it before. It's going to be a bit of a low turnout election. Now, I'm a bit of a math nerd, and I've looked at some of the turnout of some of the other races, whether it's in Alabama, Ohio, and looking at some of the registration data that we've got in the state of Mississippi and the 3rd District, to be specific. And if we had the same turnout of Alabama, we'd need about 37,000 votes to win this thing. If we had the same turnout as Ohio, we'd only need 33,000 to win this thing. And both those states had a governor and a Senate race leading the drive for turnout. They had millions and millions and millions of dollars on the airwaves. We don't have that here in the 3rd District. I think we're probably going to only need maybe 28, 29, 30,000 to win this thing. We already were going to have about 10,000 people that were going to vote for us just because they're mad at Michael Guest to begin with. Another 10,000, I'm guessing, we've been able to reach with our TV, our radio ads, and some of the other Facebook ads we've done. We've probably got another few thousand from the events that we've done, from the door knocking and whatnot. So I really think that we only need a few more thousand votes to really push us over the top and get over that 50%, not even need a runoff and just beat Mr. Guest straight up. But to do that, we need people like y'all, people, the listeners of this the station right now. We need y'all to make a plan to go and vote on June 7th. Primary elections, it's easy to say, man, it's just a primary. I don't really need to go. Who cares? Well, this election matters. We got a rhino in D.C. that we've got the chance to get out of office, and this is a unique opportunity. So not only make a plan for yourself, but please make a plan to talk to your friends and your family, your neighbors about me. We need every single bit of support that we can get, because if we can get this rhino out and get me an America First fighter in, I'm going to fight to get other guys just like me and girls
all right, Mr.
just
Cassidy.
like me into the office.
All right, brother. We appreciate you. Have a good one. We'll talk to you next week.
All right. Thanks so much. Bye.
Thanks for listening. Tune in next week as the Clay Edwards Show discusses all that is going on in and around the city of Jackson.
This concludes our broadcast day.
Right here on 103.9 WYAB.